Love and happiness.
We live in a culture that supports our right to choose. What does that mean to choose? It means we have the power to make choices. Choices as complex as choosing life or not choosing life. With choices, from the complex to the simple, comes a certain stress and tension. A pressure that can hold you back or push you forward. Sometimes we are confronted with larger life decisions that cause us to draw back, become fearful, and overwhelmed by having to choose. A voice that created a cultural and social shift during the early 20s, 30s, and 40s was that of Margaret Sanger. She broke the status quo over women's reproductive rights by suggesting that women needed to exercise their right to choose when to be pregnant and when not to be. Her radical position on artificial contraception was supported by the Anglican Church in 1930. This gave permission to religious women of America to embrace contraception and over time became socially accepted. During World War II, from 1941 to 1945, women took over roles traditionally held by men. They became bankers, factory workers, and business owners. In 1945, the U.S. soldiers returned home and the women returned to their families. This halted the feminist movement because women were expected to become housewives once again. A little over a decade later, in 1963, when Betty Friedan published The Feminine Mystique, which addressed the unhappiness of women trapped at home as housewives, and the undervalue of women's right to enter the workforce with equal pay. This was supported and backed by American feminist Gloria Steinem, who spoke loudly about women's liberation. This led to the 1972 Equal Rights Amendment being passed because of outspoken and inspirational women who campaigned through their writings and the media the need for equal rights. Margaret Sanger, Betty Friedan, and Gloria Steinem all pushed for contraceptive control over sexual freedom, to have children and not to have children. With the rising of sexual freedom in the 60s and the 70s, abortion was argued as a viable choice as a new contraception. In 1973, Roe v. Wade passed, allowing legalized abortion to occur. Women began to have control over their lives, financially, professionally, and now sexually. Pamela Barron was in her early 20s and shares her personal experience with Roe versus Wade.
When Roe versus Wade was passed, it was probably I would say it was a complete paradigm shift with women and their views about their potential and their future and their control over their reproductive rights. In 1973, 6 months after Roe versus Wade, I did exercise that choice, and I terminated a pregnancy in July of 1973. It just became a substitute for contraception with most of my friends. And my roommate has had, the last time I spoke with my roommate, which as a young adult, and I kept in contact with her, would have been in 1987, she had had 7 abortions, and at least when we were roommates in the early 70s, several times, she had several abortions in 1 year. talk about other options. They didn't talk about choices that you might have made. And I think the pro-life world was so caught off guard that they weren't prepared themselves to offer options.
Among all these feminist voices that were stridently in support of abortion, a new feminist voice began to emerge against abortion. Pat Goltz, a student, and Kathy Callahan, a professor, met on their school campus of Ohio State in 1972. They were both members of NOW, a national organization for women, until Pat Goltz was expelled in 1974 because she argued against feminist principles that abortion was okay. In support of Goltz, Callahan eventually voluntarily resigned from the organization. Together, they developed and promoted a grassroots nonprofit organization called Feminist For Life. Feminist For Life mission is shaped by the core feminist values of justice, non-discrimination, and non-violence, and fights to systematically eliminating the root causes that drive women to abortion, primarily the lack of practical resources and support. Feminists for Life believe in the strength of women and the potential of every human life. To choose between women and children is an ideology they refuse to accept. They believe through unplanned pregnancy, no woman should be forced to choose between sacrificing her education and career plans and sacrificing her child. There is a huge disparity with what choice offers. Pro-choice promotes that having the choice to abort gives you freedom, liberation, and more importantly, a future without sacrificing your education or career. That is mistakenly what people assume is real feminism. Feminists for Life feel the pro-choice answer addresses abortion with only a one-sided argument. And yet choice is never one-sided. Real choice has options, another point of view. Feminists for Life, which is a movement within the women's liberation, offer the other choice, a choice that refuses to choose between women and children. Their movement began to get more national coverage when in 1994 began the publishing of The American Feminist, a magazine focusing on pro-women answers to pro-choice questions. The quarterly published magazine is filled with factual data, with women choosing other options than abortion, and has experiential testimonies and abortion-related issues. In 1996, the College Outreach Program was established, when Guttmacher Institute identified college women as the group greatest at risk of an abortion. The Feminists for Life College Outreach created a campaign that challenged traditional abortion views and provided practical information for pregnant women, not including how to obtain abortion. Feminists for Life created a kit for student activists, advisors, and counselors on campus, filled with resources other than abortion. One of the resources they use is the Nurturing Network, whose executive director is Mary Cunningham Agee, a Harvard graduate. Her nonprofit organization provides support in many areas to college-age and young professional women. They provide physicians, housing, continued education, medical care, financial aid, adoption, and relocation if necessary. Together, Feminists for Life and the Nurturing Network have created a strong movement that has a plan for women to make hopeful decisions without sacrificing their life or education.